Hello and welcome to another Tabletop Games Blog Saturday review. The escape pod rattles violently as it tears through the atmosphere before the noise suddenly fades away. A rough landing throws you against the restraints, leaving only silence until the hatch finally creaks open and fresh air rushes in with a long hiss. After you take off your helmet, you can smell unfamiliar scents. As you climb out of the pod, you can see a landscape unlike anything you have ever seen before. There are giant mountains that disappear into the clouds, strange plants that sway gently in the breeze, and countless mysteries that are waiting to be uncovered. You notice that you crashed high on a lonely hill, giving you a really good Vantage by Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games, with art by Valentina Filik, Søren Medding and Emilian Rotival. Vantage is a beast. The box weighs a ton, and when you lift the lid, you're confronted with hundreds of cards, dozens of tokens, a large handful of dice, and a number of storybooks. It's almost as if you could sustain a living on an alien planet just from the components alone. Looking through everything, you get a feel for the many years of design, development, playtesting, writing, and illustrating it took to make this game. So whatever you think of Vantage, after playing it, the sheer ambition behind it has to be admired. As we have to come to expect from Stonemaier Games, production quality is outstanding again. The cards feel excellent, the tokens are satisfyingly tactile, and the illustrations have a wonderful graphic novel style that gives the world its own distinct identity. Colors are double-coded, which is always wonderful to see, and generally speaking, the iconography makes navigating everything rather intuitive, despite the intimidating number of components. There's even an insert that holds all the cards and makes organizing the game quite easy. Setting up Vantage is pretty straightforward. In fact, the setup starts in the rulebook before continuing as you start your journey into the game's open world. As you read the opening chapter, you choose your characters, reveal your mission, and before long you stand on an unfamiliar world that will be your home for the next few hours. I really love how quickly the game draws you into its world before the first turn is even taken. That shows just how much thought has gone into Vantage, and that the 8 years of development weren't for nothing. Unfortunately, despite my admiration for the scale and ambition of Vantage, the game really didn't land for me, if you'll excuse the pun. Let's start with Vantage's rulebook, which makes playing the game more difficult than it is. It takes several pages to explain that you normally perform only a single action at a location before you have to move on. The rulebook struggles because you have so many options. You can choose between location and card actions, as well as a depart action. Then you have to figure out the action cost, for which another player looks up the correct section in the relevant storybook. Then decide as a team if you want to reduce the cost of the action before finally rolling the relevant number of dice and placing them on available dice spaces, or taking damage for any dice you can't place. It's like resolving an attack in the tabletop skirmish game. Of course, once you get into the rhythm, it's not too bad, but it will take a while to get there. Another thing in Vantage is that the actions are called differently on the cards than the related base action. So, for example, when you take an ask action, you're actually taking an orange engage action. The descriptive name illustrates what you're doing in the game, but when another player has to find the correct storybook, they need to know that you're doing an orange engage action. The location cards are also a bit odd. They're secret. Only you are allowed to see the illustration. Yet they are double-sided, so when you take a location card out of the box, it is easy to give everyone an unintended sneak peek. It's almost its own little dexterity challenge. Lastly, the quest cards are placed sideways, but the dice spaces on them are printed for an upright orientation. That makes it look wrong. Enough negativity though. Where Vantage really stands apart from many other cooperative games is its first-person perspective. Only you can see your current location. Everyone else relies on how you describe what you can see, what you discover, and what you think might be worth investigating. I always enjoyed it when someone described the location while I tried to picture it in my mind. In fact, it's the conversations that Vantage encourages that are my favorite part of the game. Rather than simply moving pieces around a board, the game encourages you to build the world together, and it's amazingly successful at doing so. Of course, good storytelling is half people's imagination and half good writing. In Vantage, these short story snippets give everyone enough detail to be able to imagine the scene without spelling everything out. After that, it's up to you and the other players to fill the gaps, which means every group's experience will be slightly different. When you start playing, every decision feels exciting because there's so much yet to be discovered. Every new location promises another mystery, another unexpected discovery, or another small piece of a much larger puzzle. As players, you want to keep moving forward because you want to see what the planet has to offer up next. Very few board games are able to capture that sense of stepping into the unknown quite so effectively. So, from that perspective, Stonemaier Games has delivered exactly the storytelling gameplay experience it set out to create. Keeping locations hidden encourages players to communicate, and it keeps some curiosity for the other players, which also reduces the risk of one player taking over. It makes discovering a place for yourself feel different from merely hearing about it. Unfortunately, the initial excitement of exploration slowly begins to fade as the game continues. The opening hour is full of amazing discoveries, but then the story slowly plateaus. Fresh discoveries become less frequent and less interesting, and the game starts to drag. Now, while I understand why Jamie Stegmaier has made the design decisions he made, and while I genuinely admire him for making them, Vantage just didn't work for me. I was hoping for a proper cooperative adventure, reminiscent of the Seventh Continent, where we would eventually come together and explore the planet as a group. Instead, the game seems to deliberately keep players apart. Even though you all work together when you discuss ideas and offer each other skill tokens to make challenges easier, everyone actually does their own thing. Vantage feels like a multiplayer solitaire game where everyone has their own individual adventure. The thing is, the rules technically allow players to meet, but in reality I don't think it will actually ever happen. That's a shame, because I kept wanting to walk towards wherever one of the other players happened to be. I wanted us all to meet up and continue as a group towards the ultimate conclusion of our session. Maybe that's just me. You may enjoy Vantage exactly for the reasons I didn't get on with it. For me, narrative adventures are about a band of people traveling together, sharing discoveries and beating the odds as a team. Yet even after giving the game a fair chance, I found myself feeling more and more like we were telling each other stories about our own separate journeys. So, while the design decisions have my utmost respect, they do not change how I feel when playing the game. Thank you for listening to this Tabletop Games Blog Saturday Review podcast. Please check the description below for links mentioned in this episode, as well as to the written version of this article on the blog. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, give us some stars or leave a review. Please also tell your friends about me, and if you want to offer financial support, check out my Patreon and Ko-fi pages, links to which you'll find in the blog at tabletopgamesblog.com. So thank you again for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. This podcast was made possible by the generous help of my supporters. Royal Patron Sean Newman, Magic Champion John Risley, Castle Guards David Miller and James Naylor, Dice Masters Alex Bardi, Paul Grogan and Robin Kay, and Shining Lights Jacob Davis, Gavin Jones and Richard Simpson.